This meeting is called to order at 6:32 p.m. on Tuesday, May 30th, 2017. This meeting is being recorded. Move to accept the minutes of last week's meeting as written.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
The minutes of the public session are accepted. Move to accept the minutes of the non-public session last week.
Second it.
All in favor? Aye. Minutes of last week's non-public session are accepted. Okay, we've already gone through payroll, vendors. Let's hit the correspondence file. Okay, this is actually going to be under old business anyway. The forensic audit. We had a question last week about the portion of the money that Cindy paid the town and for the forensic audit. Turns out we're in good shape. The original order, and I'm basing this now on a news article in the Manchester Union Leader. It said that she was ordered to pay $19,000 and change in restitution and $10,000 to the town for a forensic audit if the town chose to do one. So that's what we had questions about. Went up to the Superior Court. I got a copy of the court's sentencing order. There is no mention of a forensic audit anywhere in that order. Instead, it says $29,000 in restitution. So apparently, and this is just my guess now, the attorneys got together and agreed on that arrangement, but when the judge gave his sentencing order, he didn't break it out. So the whole thing is restitution, so we don't have to get permission to spend it. It's sitting there, we can go ahead and spend it on that audit. And if there's anything left over, it does not go back to her. So that's a dead issue. Now, we can't spend it now because we have to wait and find out what the final bill will be on that forensic audit. We're in phase one, which we know will be $2,500. Based on the outcome of that, we'll decide whether to drill down any further. So that money will sit tight until we are completed with that entire operation. Any questions on the forensic audit?
Nope.
Okay, we have an email from Richard Deceive. Says, Barb, I spoke to Carl Hagstrom yesterday. He's the septic guy. Mr. Guelcher is working with him. Excuse me 1 second. While I mute that. Mr. Guelcher is working with him and spoke to Carl yesterday as well. At the moment, he wants to design a system, save his pennies this year, and install it next spring. I told Carl to check the existing system carefully and let Mr. Guelcher know if Carl thinks it's in failure. If so, Carl will tell Mr. Guelcher he has to have the work done right away. So for now, we keep tabs on it. Please remind the neighbor to check that hillside periodically without being too intrusive. If it springs a leak, I will need photos. Thanks, Dick Deceive. If it springs a leak, you'll know it. It says, Barb met Dick on the 24th to check the property. This is the one that we went out and looked at the beginning of the meeting. I think it was last week or the week before.
Week before.
Yeah, okay. Mr. Guelcher has 2 weeks from the 24th to have septic tank pumped and receipt turned into select board for proof. And that note is not dated, but it has to be after Friday the 26th because that's when the email was dated. Is there anything else on that, Alissa?
That's it.
Okay. Okay, this is from Richard Hull, EPA, dated today. As was discussed during the Board of Selectmen meeting that we attended on May 1st, additional access restrictions and signage will soon be installed at the Troy Mills Landfill Superfund site. These access restrictions are being implemented to restrict vehicular access to the lower and upper access roads, the abutting wetland, and the 2-acre landfill cap and groundwater monitoring wells. The additional signage is being installed to inform of the potential health risks that may be associated with contaminants present in landfill leachate and wetland soils. EPA has developed a fact sheet that addresses this work and provides information that the town can disseminate to local groups and individuals that may use the site for recreation, as well as to other interested groups, including the Conservation Commission and Highway Agent. An electronic copy of the fact sheet is attached, and we will send you 40 copies via U.S. mail. Any questions on that?
saying that they're,
Say again, please.
just saying that they're gonna put the signs up and the work has started, so.
Yep.
Which is good.
Okay. For some reason, this came through the tax collector. I'm not sure why, because it's from the state. Good morning. The New Hampshire Governor's Commission on Disability needs to know who the ADA coordinator is for your town. Federal law states that a public entity that employs 50 or more persons shall designate at least one employee to be an ADA coordinator to manage efforts to comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act. Please provide us with a name and contact information. If your town does not have an ADA coordinator, please provide us with a reason why none have been appointed. On behalf of the Governor's Commission on Disability, we thank you. Best regards, Brian Conley, Research and Information Specialist, Governor's Commission on Disability. Alissa, how many employees do we have total?
With all the firefighters and ambulance, it's over 50.
Okay. Do we have an ADA coordinator?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Would you please contact them, respond to them, and tell them that you are the ADA coordinator?
Sure.
Thank you. Since you are here full time. And I don't know what your duties are, but you can ask. From DHHS. Town of Troy, our records indicate that your town may be without an active health officer, or the term of your health officer or deputy has expired. To begin the process of appointing a new officer, please review and complete the attached health and deputy health officer appointment form, which can also be found online at this address. This form needs to be completed, signed by a town board representative, and returned to our office either through U.S. mail, fax, or scanned and attached to an email. If you have any questions, please contact me at this email and phone number. We do not have a health officer, and I actually read this yesterday. I was in here briefly, and I reviewed the RSA, and there's no requirement that we have a health officer. They'd like us to have one, but we probably should have one, but there's no statutory requirement. Okay, this is from Mike Jasmine. I'm not really sure what this is about. I got his response, but I'm not sure what he's responding to.
It was when we were doing the building, looking for a building inspector. He just barely got back to me.
Oh, okay. I see what this is. So that's really overcome by events.
So if you want information going forward, he said he'd come in and talk to the
Okay.
guys.
All right. The Linda Farnham case. This is from Cy Little. And I read this yesterday. Rather than read 2 pages, I'll just summarize it. He says that she's living in an apartment that's apparently subsidized, living on Social Security, and she has nothing. And he strongly recommends that we do not pursue a legal case against her because we'll just be throwing good money after bad, his words, because you'll probably never see a nickel of it. Alissa, you mentioned to me earlier that Barbara has tried to reach her, and she can't even get a hold of her. She's not returning calls. I do not want to give up on this. I've given this a lot of thought over the last week. Would you contact the insurance company and ask them if there's any requirement that we continue to insure her? I'm not suggesting that we will drop her from the insurance, but I want to know if we have the right to do that. The way I look at this, she received more than $4,000. It did not belong to her. She knew it did not belong to her. She refuses to return it, and as a result, the town of Troy has had to make up the money that she kept. I don't see any difference between that and theft. That means that my taxes are going up this year or next year because of what she has done. If she refuses to pay this back, and if we can legally drop her from the insurance, I would not hesitate to do so, providing we give her adequate warning of our plans. If we can't drop her, another option is withhold. If we would withhold a certain amount, let's say, how often do we pay the insurance? Monthly? $25 a month. If we withheld $25 a month from the premium that we send to the insurance company and make it clear to them it is specifically for her account, and then increase her copay. find out if we can do that. Okay? Any questions or comments on that?
No, you just covered it. It was what Mike Cummings said, that how is that they take money out of her pension to pay for the insurance? And where she hadn't had enough money to pay for it, the town had to pick it up, so they should be.
That's not what happened.
No, that isn't what happened.
No, I'm not sure whether they paid a bill for her or she got reimbursed for something, but they gave her $4,000 plus, more than they should have. And she just got that check and decided to keep it. And when the insurance company said, oops, we gave you that by mistake, give it back, she said, no, I won't, because you did this to me last year. So then based on our contract with the insurance company, they came after us for it because it was easier to get it from us than it was to get it from her. So we're out $4,000 that they sent her by mistake and that she decided to keep.
But how does she pay for that insurance?
I don't know.
I believe it comes out of the retirement.
Yeah. So she's getting a state pension based on her husband's service. So it comes out of there, and then I think she has a copay, right?
She must have.
Yeah, okay. So what I'm proposing is that we reduce the amount that we pay monthly and increase the amount that comes out of her pension. I don't know if we can do that, but if you would please research that. But I don't want to let go of this. The more I think about it, it becomes more a matter of principle.
Why did the insurance send her a check for $4,000?
Because they were careless.
So they come back on the town.
That's right. Based on the contract that we have, it came back on us.
Nice.
Yeah. Because it was easier to collect from us than it was to collect from her, that's all. So, any other questions on that issue? Okay. All right, this is a letter from the DRA that we're waiting for. As far as I know, the money has still not moved, only because of documents that have to be signed by the trustees. But Janet sent an email to TD Bank last
Tracy,
week.
yeah.
When, yeah, what day was that she sent that?
That was
Wednesday?
Wednesday or Thursday.
Yeah, okay. And I saw a copy of that. She sent the email to the bank directing them to do it. The bank says, okay, but because this is a new account, trustees have to sign these forms, and I believe Norm was in yesterday? Not yesterday, I'm sorry. Friday? This morning, okay. So it's in the hands of the trustees, but the action is in the hands of the trustees. The money is not until they complete the actions.
And they're coming in at 7:30.
To talk about that? Okay. Any questions on that, or wait until they get here? Okay. All right, this is the email from Janet. That was Thursday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon that she sent that to TD Bank. Okay. Alissa, this is that right to know request?
Yeah, it was just a
Whatever. Okay.
The rest of that stuff is all there.
All right. Well, that completes our correspondence file. Okay. At 7 o'clock, we have Jim Dicey, Josh Ellis, and Phaedra Lady coming in. They're not here yet. We're still early. Then Dan Guay, trustees are coming in. Norm Whitney, what can we do for you?
We had a conversation with Curtis today about getting KRT to come back and do their job correctly, to straighten the situation out. So Curtis got an appointment set for the 7th.
Okay.
When the guys come back out.
Okay.
So hopefully they get the ship straight.
Hopefully.
Curtis said he's after them.
He is. He's relentless.
I told him, I said, this needs to be worked on ASAP. So, and he said, well, it wasn't going to get done for 3 weeks. I said, it needs to get done a lot sooner than that. He moved it right up. So June 7th was the earliest he could do it, to have George come out and take a look at it. So.
Yeah. One thing we talked about was having Curtis do it. I think you discussed that with him.
Well, I told him that the KRT is going to say, well, he's not a, they're going to accept it.
Well, he doesn't have to, because he wouldn't be doing an assessment. From what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, a year ago, they came inside, saw that it was not built out, and gave you an assessment based on not built out. This year, they came out, they looked at it, couldn't get in, assumed that it had been built out, and gave you a higher assessment.
What do you mean built out?
Of the interior finished.
Interior
I
complete.
mean,
That was their
when
assumption.
you're talking to somebody just bare framing,
All right, well, I'm just trying to verify, I've not been out there myself,
and 2 months go by and they look at it
Okay.
like, oh yeah, it's just,
but that's what happened, right?
well,
All right.
they shouldn't be allowed to, I mean, someone told me the only reason that somebody has a building permit is for the freaking hound dogs to come knocking at your door and jack your taxes up.
All right, but just trying to get back to why we're gonna have Curtis do it, we may still end up doing this if we can't get this guy out here on the 7th. He wouldn't be doing an assessment, he would just be verifying that the interior had not been finished.
Correct.
Which means that KRT would then go back and look at their previous assessment, which their professional assessor did, and say that is still current. And then they would go with that. But the final decision on it doesn't rest with KRT. The final decision on the assessment rests right here at this point. They simply do our legwork for us. Okay. But if they're coming on the 7th, then that's acceptable to you?
Yeah,
Okay.
coming out the 7th and.
Are you gonna be there?
No, I won't. It's a
Okay.
Wednesday morning.
Okay.
Is there a,
Well, you don't need to be there.
no, I don't need to be there. I told him that if there are any issues to call my phone and I
Okay.
will be available. And
Yeah.
I also told Norm if there's any issues.
Okay.
But I also made it clear to Norm to make sure you're available at 08 in the morning so you're there so they can actually come in.
There'll be a recording
Because-
this time, so if they're looking at a wall that's just bare framing, they'll want them to explain to me how that's.
Well, KRT, when they come out and they can't get inside of a building, they have to assume that a year ago, we're doing the work. They assumed that it was completed. Because they weren't,
There's only like a few months in
But-
between.
but they couldn't get inside the building to verify it, but that's how they do it. They say, well, since we can't get in, we have to assume this is what's in there.
Mhm.
To get it fixed is you have to get another appointment, have them come out and show them physically, that's what we're doing. So, and I did ask them if I went in and did it and they didn't say I couldn't, they didn't verify saying I could.
Yeah.
So, it
If
was
it comes down
left
to
in
it,
the
it's not-
open.
if it comes down to that, it's not their call, it's our call.
Right.
Right.
So, I have no problem, if you have no problem, if they don't show up on the 7th and.
I think when they come and they talk to Alissa, the first protocol ought to be that you email, try to contact the customer, say they're in town. You know, so you're doing it one time, so say, you know, obviously, not everybody wants them to come back. You know, but.
Well, do they contact you, Alissa, when they come into town?
Well, they gotta-
And they tell you who's they're gonna do?
Yeah, ones that they need to go in, they do contact,
Well,
but
well, their list of the properties they want to look at comes from Alyssa.
Okay.
it's basically all the building permits that were pulled in a year. And then when they went out the previous year, if there's ones that were completed when they went that first year, they'll go back.
Are building permits only valid for 1 year?
Mm.
There is no end date on it?
Randy Blodgett told me that building permit, you get a building permit, as long as you're working on your house and if you just don't do nothing for like 6 months, then he said, as long as you're working on your house,
Right.
the permit's valid.
Right, I was told that you have to show a substantial amount of work.
Well, he said, as long as you're continually working,
Right.
I mean, I'm gonna work on my house a week after I'm dead, then I'm gonna quit.
Substantial is very subjective.
Right, but, because there was another issue in town, the planning board went through that if somebody wasn't, they got a building permit and there was no expiration date, and if no work was getting done for, say, 6 months, that the work stopped, then they have to come back and reapply. I didn't know
Is that written down?
I'm pretty sure it was in the planning board somewhere, I do not
Okay.
know where,
Right.
off the top of my head, but Carol Ogilvy is on top of all that stuff,
Right.
she's wicked smart.
Oh, yeah. Good
So I
research.
still got the email from Randy, and I think it was a RSA or something, he sent me the.
So with that being said now, if they came out a year ago and you were doing the work and say it has been 12 months and you were continually doing the work, their assumption is correct, saying that the work could have been done and completed in that time frame. So it's not that they're wrong, It's just the procedures that they're doing it is based on whether or not they can get inside the house or
Well,
not.
that Doug Rollins must have a medical issue then, for him to, I took him downstairs up, you know, every corner. He wrote everything down and changed it, and then he comes back,
From last year though.
yeah, but it was only just a few months because they came out and they raised it up. And then there was a process to get him back out there for an appointment, to go back through again. And then a short amount of time, comes back up.
What's the time frame from the time he came out to the time that,
Oh, is it, he come out once in May. First time was May, and then they came back.
April. Maybe
That was
April.
a couple months.
so a whole year then? So it's been a year, so they did assume that the work was completed because, like I said, if the building permit says that you have to continually do work on it for it to be legal, and you did that continuous work, that is why they assumed that it was done.
Well, I mean, I know like the siding isn't done. I still gotta do the siding, I've got some work to do on the roof, and, I mean, if they're gonna look at a building and say, oh, it's got nice siding on it, it must be done, then I'll peel it up and I'll put tar paper on there,
Well, some people also not bother doing the siding to make it look like it's not completed, but the interior is actually 100% completed.
You know, me, I'm one that, you know, you get the house weather tight, I'm not gonna, you know, gumbo insulating or, you know, with sheet rock and whatever stuff, and you got, I mean, I've already had to, you know, fix, one section there because the, the water coming out the roof got behind the siding, and I had to get in there and cut out some deterioration and rebuild it.
So, all right, well, June 7th, we'll go move from there.
Joel,
Yes.
you're on the agenda.
Oh.
You're on for 8 o'clock, but we're a little ahead of schedule.
Was this for the comment about the gazebo
Yep.
over there? When we built the stairs, and Ben can probably verify this, I believe the building is leaning to the east almost 3 inches and 12 feet. Because we had a 4-foot level that we put on the post, and it was at least an inch off. And then we brought it above the deck, and it was another inch off, and we didn't go the last 4 feet.
Right.
So I believe that building is shifting to the east on them posts. And then posts are 5.5 inches in square, which they cut off of it. So it's actually leaning more than half of the post. So I would suggest to get a structural engineer over there maybe to look at it. That's an awful heavy roof on them posts, and it has shifted for some reason. So I would probably recommend getting a structural engineer over there to look at it, to see what has to be done to either stop it from going.
I think you're absolutely right. We need to do that. Do you know of one who would do that kind of work?
There is a fellow that works for a lot of towns. His name is Theo Fellows out of Walpole.
Ted.
Ted Fellows, his real name's Theo.
Okay, Theo Fellows, okay.
Yeah, and he works for all the towns.
All right. We'll contact him and we'll see if we can get him over here.
So,
Because what you've described, I don't want to sit on that. Literally or figuratively.
and the other reason I was in here, I'm gonna apply for a wine and beer license through the state, and I just want to know if the town has any rules and regulations for me to follow.
Okay, the town does not, but we know that the state permit process will require that you get a letter from the town stating that we have no objections, which we will gladly give you. Okay,
That's the only
okay,
things I had.
all right. Okay, we're getting on to 7 o'clock. Do we have Jim, Josh, and Phaedra waiting outside there?
Jim is out there.
Josh is there.
Josh is there. Is Phaedra coming?
Is Faber coming?
So we got some more chairs?
Yeah, I think so. I keep forgetting to bring them in ahead of me.
There's one chair in here.
Man's chair? You should have done like
All right. Is Phaedra coming?
Supposed to be here.
Okay,
Did she
all right.
call you at all today?
Yes.
We're still 5 minutes ahead of schedule here, so,
Yeah.
but we'll go ahead and start. There were two issues that we had to deal with. One was whose responsibility is it to take care of the culverts? And we researched it, and it is the homeowner's responsibility. Here's a copy of the statute. I've highlighted the appropriate portion. I'll read that for the benefit of everyone else here. The owners of property to which the access is appurtenant shall have continuing responsibility for the adequacy of the access and any grades, culverts, or other structures pertaining to such access, whether or not located within the public right-of-way.
Yeah, well, if my research is right, that pertains to the state highway,
Well, actually, it's,
not the road I live on.
well, the first part of that, it says, the Commissioner of Transportation for the state highway, or the Planning Board for the
Right.
town. And if you look at the entire, this is just Roman numeral 6. If you go through the entire thing, it applies to the Class 5 roads as well in town.
Well,
Doesn't that chapter pertain to the highways?
It's
That whole chapter?
excavations and driveways, the whole chapter.
yeah, state,
Yeah.
That,
with state road frontage.
the chapter itself.
Driveways and other accesses to the public way.
Right. Doesn't it say class 1, 2, and 3?
All right, 236.13, driveways and other accesses to the public way. It should be unlawful, or et cetera, for Class 1 through 3 highways, and the state-maintained portion of a Class 2 highway. Then Section 2, pursuant to this section, a written construction permit, again, they're talking about that. Let's see. Okay, now Roman numeral 5, just prior to this. The same powers concerning highways under their jurisdiction as are conferred upon the Commissioner of Transportation by paragraphs Roman numeral 1, 2, 3, and 4 shall be conferred upon the planning board or governing body in cities and towns in which the planning board or governing body has been granted the power to regulate the grading and improvement of streets within a subdivision as provided in RSA 674-35, and they shall adopt such regulations as are necessary to carry out the provisions of this section. Such regulations may delegate administrative duties, et cetera, et cetera. So it does apply to town roads.
Where did, I didn't hear that, but I didn't see where that applied, but.
Well,
So even if it is responsibility of the landowner,
Yeah.
whose responsibility is to clean the ditches? My culvert's plugged up and it froze because the ditches, there aren't any anymore. And the ditches are up higher than the culverts now. So,
Okay, this only applies to the driveway cut. That's where you attach to
what
the
if the
road.
driveway cut is within the travel portion of the road, the 2 rod wide?
What if it is?
Then who's the town
Okay,
responsible?
well, it said here, whether or not located within the public right of way.
so
But if you're talking about the ditches, the drainage ditches between the driveways,
Yeah.
that's a different story.
Well, my culvert is plugged up
Yeah.
and destroyed because the ditches are higher than the culvert.
Okay,
Now, that culvert was put in, I don't know, when the place was built in the 70s, and it's worked up until 3 or 4 years ago, until no one's been digging the ditches out.
Until it was extended,
until what was extended?
the culvert.
so
It was
guess-
extended with your approval.
this is the
You signed it.
I got the select board meeting minutes from Monday, July 6, 2015.
When that town decided they were gonna do that, but they didn't have a saw to use, right?
Right. So-
I have a saw now.
Well, let me read this blurb right here, and then we'll go to the second date and where it's been as it goes, because it does say that 5:45, Josh Ellis, Mr. Ellis culvert at the end of the driveway needs to be fixed from the winter damage from the buildup inside of it, and then having it freeze and buckle. Mr. Ellis would like it if Jim Dicey could use the cutter to cut the tar, and Mr. Ellis would take care of the rest himself. Mr. Ellis stated that the RSA states that the class 1, 2, and 3 roads the town doesn't have to maintain the ditches and culverts. Mr. Ellis said that his driveway is not one of those class roads, or one of these class roads. The selectmen tabled it till next selectmen's meeting on July 13, 2015, so that Selectmen Nato and Jim Dicey could be present. July 13th, 5:11 p.m., James Dicey, the selectman asked if the ditches are being cleaned out by Mr. Dicey. Mr. Dicey stated that one on South Street was cleaned out 4 years ago. There are ditches that get cleaned out on a yearly basis if they are trouble spots. Mr. Dicey stated that if Josh Ellis has an area of concern with the ditches, that he needs to tell him and he will clean it out. Mr. Ellis wanted Mr. Dicey to use his tar cutter to cut a hole by his culvert, and he would do the rest of the work himself. Mr. Dicey stated that the Public Works Department does not own a cutter. They always borrow one from the Water and Sewer Department. Chairman Sheets said that he would inquire to the Water and Sewer Department.
Right.
And it goes on to...
Yeah, the water and sewer department won't let the highway department use it, so why are we even, we're
So-
not together?
It went to October 19, 2015. Jim Dicey, 5 o'clock. The selectman wanted to verify with Mr. Dicey there was nothing he could do to fix the bottom of Josh Ellis's driveway. Mr. Dicey stated that he does not own the cutter. The Water Sewer Department owns it. Chairman Sheets stated that the Water Department will not allow the use of the cutter. Mr. Dicey stated it is not the town's responsibility to fix the bottom of the driveways. Chairman Sheets asked Mr. Dicey if the drain and culverts were being cleaned out before winter. Mr. Dicey stated that with the cold snap that happened so quickly, there is other things that need to be down to town before the culverts are done to town. Misspelling. Chairman Sheets stated that if he drains and culverts don't get cleaned out before winter, then there are going to be problems. Chairman Sheets asked Mr. Dicey why the only 2 highway department employees were on vacation at the same time. Goes into an issue. Mike Janthe is available to operate equipment. Property, Marble Road. And then it stops at that. So it's
Just
been
a
going
bunch-
on since 2015.
Just a bunch of baloney. I have a saw, but still,
Clarify something for me.
sure,
You mentioned that the culvert was extended.
yeah.
What do you mean by that?
I asked if I could extend it, he approved it, we
Or
extended
so
it.
that the culvert itself extends
Yeah.
past the end of your driveway?
Right,
Okay,
but the ditches used to be
all right.
right 3-4 feet deep. In fact, the ditch is so deep that in one area the stone wall's fallen in. They dug them so deep, but now they're almost filled in even. You can walk right in, you can drive right in there.
When was the last time that, the South Street, when was the last time South Street was done?
3 years ago?
How many?
3 years ago?
3 years ago, okay. Have you been down there to look at it recently?
Yeah.
Right.
The issue with his culvert where he's claiming that it's plugged up is he extended it and it was all stone in there, ledge. And he extended it beyond that ledge and there's no ditch there.
Well, we'll take a ride up there, because that's a bullshit story, because that culvert, when we put it in, that culvert was from my knee down, okay?
And the stone, stone dropped right
It's
off.
mud, it's all mud. That culvert, there's so much mud in there.
So
And my perimeter drain on my house is plugged up now, which goes into the culvert through the center of the driveway. And since then, water's backed up in the cellar of my house because the perimeter drain had a guy in Keene come with a camera and run the camera down there. And the line goes all the way to the culvert and that's it. But
last week you stated that Jim had the fire truck and he was cleaning up.
yeah, I cleaned out
fire.
Lucky Sheets' culvert, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah. And then you
That was
also,
washing out the driveway.
You
He
also-
called it a can. He had been working on it for 4 hours cleaning it.
well,
And it was
I don't,
plugged in the middle of the pipe. There's no way he could get to it. So I brought the fire truck up to the sewer mole and blew it out. I was there for 15 minutes.
last fall, did you do any pavement at 185 Bigelow Hill Road? The lady on the right, at the end? Did you do any driveway work for her?
Driveway work?
Well, edge of the road where is probably where the ditch was, the rain washed out to the end of her driveway and you fixed it and you paved it. Would you do that up there?
It was, when it was paved, we did it, and it was all busted up where the mail lady was complaining that she was dropping off the edge of the pavement. So I did repair it, just like I do with anything with the
Well,
mail lady.
I got customers come in my driveway and can't get in there because they're dragging bottom because of the culvert, and all I asked you to do was cut it, and you said you couldn't because the water department and the highway department don't cooperate back and forth together, so
What is it you need cut?
I have a saw.
What do you need cut?
Need the top of the culvert where it's buckled up cut, and I need the culvert unplugged.
Okay.
I'll take care of it after that, but am I legally insured under your highway bond to do any of that? Because that is
No,
the travel
you're not.
portion of the
No,
road.
you're definitely not.
So then, who do I have to do it?
Well, you're talking about your culvert
Right,
and your saw.
yeah, and I can't do it.
Why not?
You assume liability?
No. According to this, it's your responsibility to maintain the culvert. So it's if you own the culvert,
Right, but
And you
what's
have the
not gonna
responsibility,
reason
you have
the
a
culvert's
saw.
plugged up because no one's done a damn thing, the ditches in how many years?
3.
That ditch
Is
used to
that
be
before
4
or
feet
after
deep.
I bought the condo?
Hey,
What's
her
that?
culvert is new, and we're driveway
The
washed up.
cleaning on South Street.
I
Is that
got
before or
17
after
other
I bought
people
it?
in town that have driveway issues
know when
because
the-
nothing's been done to the ditches, they're all, the culverts are plugged
All
up.
right.
You
It was
know,
about 3 years ago.
all we need is an answer. If the town's not
But
gonna do
actually,
anything,
you're
that's all we
right,
need is an answer.
because no, you didn't do it after.
It's
I
that
bought it.
simple. Either you're gonna work on you're gonna fix the problem, unplug the culverts because the ditches haven't been cleaned, or you're not. That's all we're asking.
Okay.
If you're not gonna do it, just say so.
Jim,
No baloney about I can't borrow a saw, the water department won't let me use it. That's garbage. You know that.
Jim,
Yes,
when you did Bucky Sheets' culvert,
yes.
is there any reason why you couldn't do the same thing to
I
Norm's
can
or
try
Taylor's
it, I
culvert?
can try it if it's plugged up.
Okay,
If
that's the issue, it's plugged.
Plug solid.
If
Okay.
it's plugged up in the pipe, that's what I do it for, yes. Now, what I believe the problem with his is plowing the snow all winter, you're plowing all the dirt and stuff up on the end, and then when it melted, it filled the end of the pipe.
Okay,
Because that's right where all the snow goes, Josh, you know that.
I went out with the excavator last year and dug a goddamn hole down there 4 feet deep, and all the stuff from up above washed all the way down all winter. I mean, all this rain we've had, none of the culverts, all the way up through, most of them don't work. Pierre Legrenard's old house up there, washed their driveway up, their culvert's plugged, they're right on the top of their
That
hill.
was all full of leaves. Them oak leaves, that's right.
Yeah, I know,
just
but-
up
but-
From
but
Bucky Sheets.
Is it our responsibility to clean these culverts out and clean the ditches, or what's going on?
well, the ditches are a town responsibility,
Well, when
but the
okay,
culvert is yours.
so not when the town doesn't clean the ditches and it plugs all the culverts up across town.
Well, the RSA,
I don't care about the RSA, I'm just saying,
Okay.
you just stated that the ditches are the responsibility of the town.
right,
When the town doesn't do their job and it plugs up 20 culverts in town, whose responsibility is that? The town's, because they didn't do their job.
if we don't do our job,
Right, well,
then, let me finish.
take a ride out there,
Let me
take a
finish.
ride out and look at these culverts.
All right, I'll sit here quietly and let you run down, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
All right. If the town doesn't do its job and does not clean the ditch, the culvert is still your responsibility, even if we have failed.
Nah.
You may not like that, but that is what the law
No, you know,
says.
all I need
Now,
is
that
an
does
answer.
now,
All I need is ask the board of selectmen whether they're gonna do
Right.
anything or not. If you're not gonna do anything, it doesn't matter either way.
I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna sit here quietly and let you talk, go ahead. See, every time I said I'm gonna let you talk, you stop talking. But if I try to talk, you jump in and don't let me
I just
finish.
asked you a question, that's all. You know, the culvert, the ditches haven't been cleaned in years.
3.
And now,
There's-
we pick and choose, our highway department picks and choose who they're gonna unplug the culverts.
There's no way my culvert was cleaned 3 years ago.
Your culvert is a completely different story, and if you want the story on that, just ask me, okay? Your culvert was put in way too deep by the contractor. I told him that was the case. You cannot put a culvert a foot below the ditch. The outlying ditch was plenty deep. It was all cleaned out when that pipe went in. You weren't living there then. You
No,
were
that
on
was
the hill.
7 years ago.
That pipe was put a foot below the ditch line. It's never gonna work.
Yeah, you're right, because I can't even find the goddamn hole.
Who
We
approved,
can
who approved the driveway
We
permit?
can see the pipe on one
Did you
side
sign off on
and
that?
on the
Nope.
other.
I did not.
You can see the pipe on one side, you
You
cannot.
can see the inlet side, yes, but not the outlet.
None?
And it's not gonna go through if it can't get
Oh,
out the
because
outlet
you-
side.
one day that you see me, this was going back 3 or 4 years ago, I was trying to find
About 3 years
plug.
ago.
And it's just a mess there.
It's way too deep.
So who approved
It was
it?
put in too deep.
Who approved who signed the driveway
Nobody.
permit? Well, someone has to sign a driveway permit. Part of the building lot, or building permit, all that stuff, isn't it?
Evidently, you know more than all
No,
of
no,
us
no,
here, so
no,
you go right
no.
on.
You had to sign the other one I put in up above.
That was many years ago. That's been taken out of my hands for
How
a
many,
long
how
time
many
ago.
years ago was that, Mike? 3 or 4? About that. That's many.
That's been taken out of my hands. That's all the planning board issues permits, not me.
You know, we pay our taxes and we can't get in our driveways. And no one even wants to even come up and look or even think about helping us. You drive up my road, you go to Fitzwin. As soon as you go over the line, the friggin' ditches are 4 feet deep. Brush is cut back 8, 10, 12 feet. Not Troy. Troy looks like an old back road the Beverly Hillbillies live on. That's what our road looks like. We can't even get the ditches cleaned.
How many ditches are affected right now on this road?
All of them. They're all full. They're all full.
All the way up on South Street?
All the way up on South Street. And if you clean my culvert out and you don't clean the ditch, it's still gonna, if it rains hard, it's still gonna plug everything up. When it comes down, it just washes, leaves. There's tons and tons of leaves.
And when it gets down to my house.
By the time it goes down to her house, it covers a driveway.
Yeah, I believe mine's the last house that it actually
Right.
goes above ground. And it floods the whole side yard because it backs up so far.
And there's
At
another
any
culvert
point
across
does-
the street that
At
goes
any
across.
point, does any water go across the road?
Yeah,
What
Across the
point?
driveway.
On her house,
or-
yes.
No, not across the driveway, across the road.
under the
Yeah.
culvert.
Not across the road, goes across the driveway.
Driveway.
Okay. Jim, you're working tomorrow?
Yep,
How late do you work? What's your normal work day?
6:30, 2:30.
2:30? Okay. Why don't we get together at 1 o'clock tomorrow here?
Okay,
And I'll ride over there with you and take a look at this.
yep.
We're trying to discuss this, but I haven't seen it, so that makes it a little bit difficult. All right. Now, I'm going to say something. I'm going to ask you to let me finish what I'm saying before you jump in, okay? What I was trying to say earlier is that the law says that it is your responsibility for the culvert. Now, I said that if the town does not do its job in maintaining the ditches and that affects your culvert, according to the law, it's still your responsibility. What I didn't get to was, but if that's the case, that doesn't mean that we can't do something to alleviate the situation. But I want to go out there and take a look at it first.
I already agreed to asphalt it and everything. I just
Okay.
want the problem
Okay.
somewhat fixed.
I'll go out there tomorrow with Jim. We'll take a look at it. We'll figure out what we can do, both legally and physically. And we'll table this again until next week. And then we'll have, hopefully, be able to resolve this.
Can you guys take, and when you go there, can you draw me a line where I'm allowed legally to work on it? Can you show me where I can work on it myself?
Well, I would say you're talking about the culvert now, right?
Right.
You can work on the entire thing.
Well, the town's responsible for how
The
much.
travel portion of the road, I'm
We have the
legally, I
right
can't touch
of
it.
way. If you
For how-
own the property, we have the right of way.
You own the
You can
property.
still work on it.
You actually own the property out to the middle of the
Well,
road.
when this last year, Selectman Matson came up and gave me permission off the record to fix it, and I'm like, what the hell does that mean? No, really,
Right.
what does that mean? Off the record? That's,
That means,
Like I say, you know.
that means it's easier to get forgiveness than permission. All right, let's table this for a week.
all right.
We'll go out there tomorrow, we'll take a look at it, and we'll see what we can come up with. But again, getting back to your question though, it says here, that if it says here that you have the responsibility to maintain the culvert, that also gives you the authority to maintain the culvert.
Right, but what's the sense in me doing it when it's just gonna plug up again because the ditches are
All right,
high?
well, we'll take a look at those ditches tomorrow.
You can ask the fish and game guy, he pulled off the road in my ditch, we had to pull him out 4 years ago. The truck was down like 4 or 5 feet down, that's how deep the ditch was. Now, I can drive right in there.
All
What's
right.
your address?
142 South Street. The other thing, there's another culvert that goes from my driveway across the street
60
to
South
Chris's,
Street.
across the road.
Yeah,
That's plugged and that's starting to buckle the road too.
okay. Phaedra, what's your address?
60 South Street.
I couldn't hear you.
60
60.
South Street.
Okay.
Just
Now,
'cause-
I just had a quick question. What
Sure.
happened? The fire department used to go around and do this.
It did.
I'm done.
That's news to me.
the reason why I was asking,
Ask the fire
I'm supposed to be going around with Jim on Friday. You're still good with that on the
No,
for the
this
night?
Friday.
For the
Week
next.
from Friday, yes.
Right. I'm gonna go down and take a look at these as well on Friday.
Okay,
I wanna
that's
get
good.
up to par as well.
All right, well, why don't we do this? Why don't we wait, and instead of us doing it tomorrow, Jim, I'll go with you on Friday.
Okay.
Well, it's a week from Friday.
Oh, is it? Oh, I don't wait that long then. We'll
No.
go tomorrow, 1 o'clock. Okay,
Well, I was gonna go up there on this Friday as
that's
well.
fine, that's fine.
So,
We're scheduled for the 9th, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's something different, I'm sorry. That's your ride-along.
Yes.
Yeah, that's totally different. All right, so we'll meet here tomorrow at 1 o'clock and we'll go out there, okay? Faye, I'm sorry we started 5 minutes early and you
That's
were
okay,
here.
I
You were
was
on
on
time,
time.
we were just ahead of schedule. But this is a copy of what I gave Josh.
Okay.
So, anybody else have any questions or comments on what we've been discussing? Okay, let's see where we are on the agenda. Is Dan out there? Dan Guay?
Wait a second.
Sorry?
Did you wanna talk to them about that mutual light or no?
Well, I mean, the blinker light up on the end of South Main Street, Fitzwilliam Road,
Yeah,
that the town's been paying for 43 years, and now the state decided that we didn't need it no more,
yeah,
so they took it out.
yeah,
There's been 2 accidents on that, since they took that blinker light out.
okay.
The one outside my road?
Yep. I think that it's essential the selectmen write a letter to the state of New Hampshire, to the state highway department, and see about putting it back.
Okay,
Yeah. One vehicle ended up in the
Almost into the
shed,
house.
almost into the house across the
The
road.
other one going the other way took the sign down.
Yeah.
Just in what? 2
well, that's at the
weeks?
corner,
Yeah, sign?
that was at the corner of Fitzwilliam and South Main?
Yep.
South Main. Yeah.
Okay, we will do that.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Is Dan Guay out there? Hi, Dan.
Hi.
Hi, Tina. Well, just so everybody knows, if they don't already know, we heard back from DRA, and they said that despite the vote at town meeting to pay the legal fees of former members of the ambulance company, they will not allow us to do it.
Okay.
I've also been in contact with Jamie, and Jamie made it very clear to me that this board knew, sorry, not you, Curtis, that, that warrant article was not even gonna pass, even at town meeting.
Well,
That it would not pass through DRA.
that is not true. She may, I don't doubt that she believes that. But we did not know, back in earlier discussions that we've had, I told you I didn't believe that it would pass, that it was a legal article. I mentioned number of times that we could not pay this. But after we contacted them and we got back a kind of a fuzzy answer, and we contacted our attorney and got back a fuzzy answer, we said we're being led to believe that if the people, because both suggested, let the people vote on it. And we were led to believe, nobody made any commitments, but we were led to believe that if we passed it at town meeting, that they'd be okay with it. Turned out they weren't.
Well, I brought up the fact that there were 2 people that were charged criminally in this town. Actually 3, because Cindy Sadis also had attorney fees paid when she got caught shoplifting. And then there were 2 other gentlemen that got arrested for polluting Ashwheeler. And those attorney fees were paid by this town. So when I brought it to Jamie's attention, Jamie said, I looked back and I can't find a record of it. I said, that's because they took the money out of the line item for legal fees. She said, you know what, had they not had you go ahead and do that warrant article, and they just paid you out of that line item, it'd have been a done deal.
Still would have been illegal though. It wouldn't have got
Guess
caught.
what, this town is so used to illegal.
Well,
Now,
we're getting unused to it.
We're frustrated.
I understand that.
Now, can I ask you,
Yeah.
where's the court order to pay Mike Bentley?
Yeah, how did you
To pay Mike Bentley?
There is, yeah, we were told Mike Bentley got paid
By us?
by Troy Ambulance Funds.
I'm not aware of it. Do you know anything about this? No. Who told you that?
Jamie.
How would she know?
Don't know, but that's what I was told.
I don't know. I don't know anything about that. Unless they paid him before we took over the ambulance company.
No.
I can't imagine why they would.
No, I was told that he was authorized to be paid.
You sure we're talking about Mike Bentley?
Yes.
Okay.
That's
Do you
what
know the time frame?
Jamie said that Mike.
Okay, just to
Bentley was
clarify for everybody,
authorized-
Mike Bentley was attorney who represented some members of the ambulance company
Yes.
at the time that we were trying to, not that we were trying to, but that we did take it over. And he did, well, you were there with us that day. We went to court.
Yes. When that happened, there was an email that went out to all the members except for Dan
Yeah.
from Rhonda Fish, asking if those members that were named wanted to be represented by Mike Bentley.
Okay.
But Dan was excluded from that email, and it was because Dan was the whistleblower, is what I believe.
Okay.
Or actually, I was the whistleblower, because I was the one that came in here and
I wouldn't use the term whistleblower.
Well, I do, because, I mean, they were running illegally,
Yeah.
and it needed to stop, because the town was being
Yeah.
put in, you know, at a huge insurance risk. But anyway, he was excluded, so to me, he had to have his own private counsel to deal with this. So if Mike Bentley's gonna get paid out of those Troy ambulance funds, certainly Dan should. The other question I have is, what right did the town have to go and move those funds? Because we have not even received docket markings from the Superior Court in Concord yet, that that case is completely done. There's been an agreement, but the judge hasn't signed off on it. So we wanna know how the town moved those to another account when it was clear in the court order that they were not to be moved until there was a final disposition on the case in
Okay.
Concord.
I don't know the details of that, but I know that everything that we did was with the approval of the Attorney General's office. Everything.
No, because the Attorney General was the one that made it clear that that money could not be moved until there was docket markings.
And when that money was moved, it was with the Attorney General's approval,
Do you have documents?
somewhere.
Okay, because I'd like to see that, because I have not seen it. And we've been receiving whatever has gone out.
What is it you would like us to do at this point?
I'm just frustrated that, why would somebody from the DRA, the person that does all of Troy's stuff, tell me that this board was made, that again, minus Curtis, because he wasn't here, aware that that warrant article would not have passed no matter what. Because, again, nobody ever said to me, oh, we can't pay a private person's bill, which we don't consider it a private person's.
You were told that. You were told that.
But again,
By
we're
me.
saying that it wasn't private because it had to do with the Troy ambulance. And we're saying that the town is affiliated with Troy ambulance because you paid their registration, you paid their,
Well, because we paid the registration because
Insurance.
we owned the vehicle.
you paid the insurance for Troy
Because
ambulance?
we owned the vehicle.
Well, I think you paid more
I
than
don't,
just,
I don't think the town owned the vehicle at the
I
time.
believe we did. Because, well, we did own the vehicle. The registration and everything,
Gail,
insurance was
that's
all
not
right.
right. No, the
Right.
Troy Inc. owned the ambulance.
Troy Inc. bought that ambulance.
but I'm saying that there was an affiliation with the town and there was a contract between the town and that ambulance. Based on that, that's enough for me to say, you guys need to pay.
Okay.
You cannot go to Cy Little. Cy Little,
We're not going to Silo.
but I'm telling you, you can't use him when you have questions for an attorney when it comes to this matter. He has a bias against me, and I don't think that he'll be fair.
Okay. We're going to abide by what DRA has told us, and that is that we cannot pay your bills. It's no longer up, well, it was never up to us.
Why can't Troy Ambulance Inc.
Troy Ambulance Inc. doesn't exist.
We
The
have
money-
not seen docket markings yet, sir.
I don't even know what you mean by docket markings.
A final order from the court saying that this has been finalized, that the agreement was signed off by the judge.
Well, it never went to court.
Yes, it did, sir.
As I understood it, the Attorney General,
He was present.
okay, well, are you talking about the one where we went up to court?
No, in
Okay.
Concord.
I'm not familiar with that. I know that the Attorney General sent out this, it's called a civil action, and Dan was one of, I think, 5 respondents, 5 or 6,
Yeah,
okay.
how many?
And that's the one that threatened you with the $10,000 fine. And then once they got all that paperwork, once the accountant,
You mean when Tom Matson stopped playing games with the accountant? And
Well,
he finally got the paperwork?
I don't know that Tom was playing games with
Oh,
the
yes,
accountant.
he
but-
was. He was the.
Well, I don't know that Tom was playing games with an accountant, okay? But once the Attorney General's office got all of the paperwork that they demanded, they said, fine, we're happy with everything. The only person that they told us we had to pay was Lynn Rust, the accountant.
Yes.
They didn't say anything to us about paying Mike Bentley.
I did see that it said in the court order,
Right.
that was something they were requesting be done.
Well, okay, in the court order they may have requested it, the Attorney General ordered us to. They didn't request it.
the Attorney General's office can't do anything without a court order, sir. It has to be done, this is an action that was filed in court.
Yeah.
So at this point, it would be the court that would order you to do something. So if that were part of the agreement that was filed between the 5 people for Troy Ambulance and Troy Ambulance Inc., as an agreement with the Attorney General's office, then yes. But what I'm saying to you is we have not seen a signed copy by a judge saying, yes, that was approved.
And I haven't seen that either, but the Attorney General was the plaintiff in the case. If the Attorney General drops the case...
They didn't. They sent it to court to have it signed as an agreement, that this is what they agreed to do. And it was very clear in there by the Attorney General's office is that they're satisfied that they've received these reports. However, it's not to be coy, but if there's something that comes out of it, it may not be done. And that's
say that again, that last part.
if something comes out of it, meaning when they go over those financials, which we've all seen.
Oh, okay.
There's
They may
issues.
take other action. Okay.
Right. So.
If they find some wrongdoing in there when they go to
Correct.
yeah, okay.
Correct. So, you know, he was very clear that, you know, there's an agreement when it comes to he's satisfied that he's received the documents needed, and then they needed to file his, I guess, what am I looking for the term that it's an agreement that he's filing with the court on behalf of all of the parties, that they agree to say, yes, this is all done, but there's not been a sign, the judge hasn't signed off on it.
Okay, and that's why I haven't seen it then.
So should we have somebody check into it, see why this decision hasn't been made? Because I remember at town meeting, you were for getting this paid for.
Oh, I definitely wanted to pay them.
And I think,
but I want to obey the law too.
I think Barb Guelcher was in agreement to actually pay you as well.
Yeah, well, it was unanimous. Right. Everybody who voted. I'm not aware of any dissenting votes in that room that night.
Right. So it's just a matter of just doing
we wanted the right thing to do is to pay your legal bills.
Right.
Well, what
but
we're
only
saying
if it's
is
legal to do so.
If we had never filed that
article,
right,
you guys could have taken the money from Troy Ambulance and paid it, as far as I'm concerned.
There are a lot of ways that
we
could.
Okay,
let me finish this thought. There's a lot of ways that we could have paid all of your legal bills without getting caught. That doesn't mean it was legal to do so.
I don't think that it's illegal. Again, I'm saying that there is a relationship between the ambulance, whether you want to admit to it. You don't have to, because it's not your place to admit whether. I see that it's a clear relationship.
Oh, so
I agree with
that.
You're paying for their building, paying their gas, paying their insurance,
I agree
paying
with
their
you.
registration.
But at the time, Troy Ambulance Inc. was a private nonprofit corporation, and the people in it were not town employees, nor committee members, or any other affiliation with the town directly, like they are now. Now they're members of the fire department. If something happened now, well, of course, there's no paperwork required to be fired now, but if something happened now, if you were still with the ambulance company today, and something happened today and some patient sued you, for example, you'd be covered by the town's errors and omissions insurance.
So why was the ambulance ever allowed to run that way where it set someone like me up liable?
I don't know. How long has it been like that? 20 years, 30 years?
First of all, he didn't even know that he was listed. So, I mean, just...
Well, neither did we till you came in here and gave us the paperwork.
Well, talking with Chief Huntoon, he's told his board many times that it shouldn't be run that way because of an incident that happened over the seacoast where...
Over where, I'm sorry?
The seacoast area,
okay, yeah.
where one of the workers got injured, blew out a knee of some sort, and then it wasn't covered on the insurance.
Well, did the ambulance company have its own insurance policy?
I doubt it. Yes, it did.
It probably had a liability policy, but probably not an errors and omissions policy.
I believe you're correct,
Yeah.
because I believe I think Amy Willie actually looked into that. And I think the biggest issue is because they weren't even members at the time when this lawsuit was filed.
Yeah. Well,
So, I don't know. But
well, I know it's frustrating for you. It's frustrating for us too, because we want to do the right thing, and the right thing is to help you with those bills.
But I don't think it would have been illegal to take it out of the Troy Ambulance funds, because this is a bill that's been incurred by Troy Ambulance Inc. I guess I'm going back to when we came in here before December.
Right.
and
I have
asked,
something to add to this.
asked for those fees to be paid, and we're told, no, you can't take money out of Troy Ambulance. That money's been transferred. And at that point, I'm saying no, because I saw a court order that clearly said that money couldn't be transferred until the court in Concord, Superior Court in Concord, signed off on the paperwork. Not the AG's office, because he's just filed a lawsuit. It's up to the judge.
And I wasn't working the issue.
Yeah.
I just know what I heard sitting here. But my understanding is, from what Tom reported to us in more than one meeting, was that we were told that we could move the money, but once we moved the money into, or not so much move the money, but transfer the ownership of the account.
Yeah.
But we could not spend it without their permission. In other words, if we needed to spend it on something for the ambulance company, we would have to ask permission from either the AG or the court to do it.
My understanding was you could pay any bills that were incurred
And
by
that may be.
Troy
That may have been.
And to me, the
I'm trying to do
bill
this
that
remotely
was
after several
incurred by
months.
Troy Ambulance because of their negligence.
Yeah.
When I say there, it was the board that took over after he and the others left. Other than, Rhonda was still on. I think Rhonda was the only member that was still on. So to me, Troy Ambulance Inc. should be, if the town can't pay it, Troy Ambulance Inc. should be, and the money is still in an account somewhere, and I don't get why it can't be paid.
Well,
I think you need to push a little harder.
I have a little bit more information. So I spoke to DRA when they were making the decision on our entire warrant, and I spoke specifically about your situation, and I pled that exact case, that this was a direct affiliation, and as the way I saw it as well. So when Jamie brought that she actually brought that information to her boss, and then the regional boss, or the boss above her boss, I guess. And they still came to this decision because of they considered it a public funds for a non-public issue. So while I disagree with that decision on that, I talked to her again after that and said, what are our options now? And you had already spoken to her when I talked to her. Yeah, so she's like, I spoke to the Glazer, or however she put it, and so she said there is no legal way for the town to take care of it at this point. And the real crux of it is that the funds that came from the ambulance and was transferred over to the town was done so through the dissolution of the actual nonprofit. And the Secretary of State dissolved the nonprofit. I actually looked into that separately. So the Secretary of State dissolved the nonprofit, and through the dissolution segment of the nonprofit, it outlines exactly where the money is supposed to go, which is to the town. So, and to pay all of the ambulance bills, everything associated with it. I would consider this one of those bills. Unfortunately, at town meeting, we took and put all those funds into an expendable trust for the next ambulance.
And they shouldn't have, because what I'm saying, Ben, is that...
Well, and I'm just assuming that it was done so with the AG's approval and whatnot, but moving it into that fund now makes it inaccessible for exactly this purpose. So, back up a little bit, there was other options along the way, and here we are. I'm obviously learning this in the last week and a half. There is literally no option at this point for the town to
we had
pay this
options
bill for it.
We would like
There were
our
there were
taxes
options.
reduced by
Yeah.
$4,000. I'm making an actual request to have our taxes reduced by $4,000.
well, we can't do that.
But it almost sounds like the town was misled to put $5,000 into an account knowing it couldn't be paid out. So is that gonna go into general fund?
I'm sorry, putting
The
5,000.
money that the town voted,
Right,
Yeah.
right. What happens to that one article? Is that still gonna be raised for revenue?
No,
For the DRA?
no,
They're
because-
just throwing that out, it's just gone?
Well, because DRA disallowed that article, that money is not appropriate.
Okay. So what does the town have to do to get these people their money because they deserve it?
So
Well,
I have another comment about that. So I asked her what are the options. I'm on the budget committee, so and anybody on the select board, this falls the same rule applies. She said we shouldn't be handling something like this, but the only other option that we have is to reach out to the town to raise funds. Everybody wants to pay it anyway, so we should reach out to the town to raise funds. I shouldn't be doing it because I'm on a committee. These guys shouldn't be doing it directly, but a private citizen in town should be reaching out to the town, whether it's via Facebook or however, to get the message out and say, listen, we could create a GoFundMe site or something to just raise enough funds to get these bills paid. Everybody wants to do it anyway, so it's just a matter of giving them the conduit to do it legally. Yes, there were options leading up to this, and royally screwed the pooch here on this end of it, but going forward, the only legal way to do it is to go that route.
And that makes us feel bad, because I felt justified because Tri-Ambulance Inc.'s money was going into the town's funds. In other words, but now we're asking the town's people to reach into their pocket.
Well, I think if they...
Well, what would be the difference? What would be the difference between taking it out of the taxpayers' money or asking the taxpayers to take it out of their pockets? It's the same pocket.
We originally wanted it to come out of the money that came from Troy Ambulance.
Right.
Because that was raised by billing and
Right.
donations and whatever. It was not gonna come out of taxpayer money at that
And I
point.
felt it was justified because the taxpayers would be getting a benefit by having a new ambulance if necessary, or equipment.
Yeah.
Whereas they're not getting any benefit by paying, it just.
Well,
No, but
if-
that's exactly.
but if the warrant article-
Yeah, that's exactly what they voted for, though, because that was coming directly out of taxation, so everybody at town meeting that voted for it, which was everyone.
Yeah.
Was ready
That
to
was
throw
right out of-
$5 on their tax bill
Yep.
to
Yep.
take care of you guys.
So what's the difference? How much is it? $5,000 total? 6,000 or something?
I'm into it for $4,000 now.
Plus you got...
Okay. All right, let's just come up, just for sake of discussion.
We're probably, between the three of us,
It's about 8,000.
about $8,000.
Okay, let's just say $8,000 for sake of discussion here. If the townspeople at town meeting vote to pay $8,000 in legal bills and DRA had approved it, then there will be $8,000 appropriated and it will be added to our tax bills. If it's not approved and it's not appropriated, and we hold a fundraiser and we ask people to contribute, and the same people who would have had their taxes raised reach into their pockets and come up with the $8,000, what's the difference? Other than the fact that they'd feel better about taking it out of their pocket than they would out of their taxes.
It's a little more difficult if it's not a tax, if
Yeah.
it's not coming from
Right,
taxes, but other than
we're
that,
not
it's the
coercing
same
them.
thing.
We're not coercing them.
Yeah.
Well, and let me see if I can find somebody that'll head up this effort so you guys don't have to do it on your own behalf. Because I get what you're saying.
Right.
You know, that's kind of what you're trying to save the, I don't know, the awkwardness of having to reach out, when in reality, if explained properly to the taxpayer, they were willing to pay it anyway.
Yeah, you would not be the ones reaching out. And I'd actually thought about this and had something I wanted to discuss tonight, before I knew that you were going to be here. And I remember a few years back, we had a fundraiser at the community center to raise money to buy that steam table. And I don't know how much, that wasn't a lot of money. That was only like 800 or something. So that was a small thing. But I was thinking something along the lines, and I was thinking of having the fire department host it. Maybe that's not appropriate. But if they were to host a fundraiser to pay, we'll call it, to pay the legal bills of members of the ambulance company, which is now part of the fire department, and hold a dinner similar to the ones that they did for the first responders at the Congregational Church, where there's no charge, but you pay what you want them to do for a donation. You get more money that way. Also, during the evening, do the 50-50 raffle. Now, what happens with a 50-50 raffle? Let's say that you raise $2,000 in ticket sales. You do the drawing. So we say, Curtis, you win half, and half goes to the fund. And what do you say at that point?
Put it back.
Exactly. Everybody says that because everybody's staring at him, and you got to do that, right? So there is a way to do this. But now maybe we don't get the whole 8,000. If we only raise 6,000, how would you feel?
We're all for that.
Well,
A lot better than you do right now.
Right, and that's already been, because Mark Huntoon had talked to us about that, and actually Jamie had told me that Ben had called and asked about it.
Right. So here you've got Mark, Ben, and me. There's three people who have not discussed this with each other, all come up with the same idea.
Yeah, another thing to keep in mind as we move forward with this, one thing that Jamie did recommend was not to funnel any of these funds through town accounts at all.
And that's why I was thinking of maybe having the church do it.
Okay. Yeah.
Or not the church run it, but to have the church involved in it.
And the reason why she says that is because DRA disallowed this specifically. It wasn't something that kind of went under the wire. They reviewed it. Everybody up there reviewed it, said no, you can't do this. So to take and do something very similar through town accounts is just to cover the town's.
Yeah, we don't have an account we could put it through. Yeah.
So the firefighters, they have their own account for the money they raise when they do their own fundraisers.
Yeah,
They-
don't.
Well,
do
that's
that.
that's still a town
account.
account. That's
Yeah.
a 2220 account?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
We can't put it, what is it?
it's their own, they have their own.
They have a totally separate one?
It's on revolving
Oh, okay,
account, right?
all right.
No, we have an association.
Sure.
Yeah.
Ah, okay, all right. So that's not a fire department account.
Thinking if you would.
So that would work at the fire
Allan,
department,
Yeah.
yeah.
if you go online,
Whatever we do is just don't
if you
use
go
town
online,
accounts.
I sent I researched it. If you go online, DRA put out a handout, and it covers a lot of this. Who can do this, how to word all this stuff, and pros and cons of
Yeah.
GoFundMe page, all this kind of stuff. And it's quite lengthy, it's about 6 pages.
Okay.
You saw it,
Yep.
Jeff saw it. And I've given it to Mark, and maybe Mark was gonna look at it, and we'll take it, kind of take it from there and get people involved and
Okay.
try to get it, like you said, maybe get the church or somebody.
Well, I was thinking of having the church do it and to handle the funding, but, because I didn't know that the fire department had an association account,
Right, but
which
they-
is, that's clean.
Right, but they kind of said stay away from that too. Even. So they give you
Okay.
guidelines and stuff, and they tell you how to
All right.
set it up with a bank and everything
Yeah.
to make them, for people to make donations if
Okay.
they want to give it to somebody in hand.
All right, I'll go on their site and find that then.
I don't know. Herb,
I can,
Herb
give me, write down your email address.
Okay.
I'll email it to you.
it was very helpful.
Yeah.
You guys happy with that?
So, and I think the town's gonna, they'll take care of it. They want it to a town meeting, it's just,
It's
So
gonna
we
be a
got-
little while.
doesn't want to allow us to do it the way we want to do it.
Mark said he wanted to get something out in the Troy
Thank you,
News,
thanks, sir.
and then
Yeah.
probably shoot for this summertime. So the
Yeah.
fundraiser.
So, I hope one thing that the board takes out of this
I just wanted to make sure.
Lessons learned.
He wasn't going into.
don't let this happen again with other entities
Yep.
in town.
No,
'Cause
Well, it was an extremely unique situation. Who knew how to handle it?
Although I still come back to poor accounting on this. Our town just needs to be more aware of, and I think you guys are doing a way better job than it's ever had before. But just because they're a 501c3, this town had money invested in that unit and should have been on top of making sure they were filing their documents. And if they hadn't been, and a lot of it is because you had a contract with them that said, if you're no longer 501c3, sorry, turn it all over to me.
And
I mean,
that's the provision that we invoked.
But you wouldn't have known that. Do you know how long you might have gone if I?
We would not have known that if you hadn't brought that. I'm sure we would have found out very quickly. Somebody would have brought it to our attention. But thank you for letting us know.
But well, think about it. They were going from January until May. We didn't come in until May because we didn't know
Right.
they were operating without a
Right.
501c3. So I mean, that was
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
the time that the town was.
And I hate to sound like I'm being the bad guy here, but we have to follow the law. And so I can think of a lot of ways that we could have done this illegally and not gotten caught. But there's just no way we're going to do that.
Jamie said she wouldn't have.
I'm sorry. I didn't hear that. Maybe it's just as well. Okay, but there are other ways, and I think we found one here, and we will run with this. Again, I don't know how much we can raise, and it's pretty much going to be a one-shot deal. I think if we do this, and we end up falling a lot short of where we want to be, we're probably not going to get a second shot at it. So we have to do it right the first time.
It needs to be a pretty concentrated effort on all fronts.
Yeah.
Because you're probably a one-shot deal.
Yeah.
Talk with Bob Norton with the rec department. We're more than willing to help out with any type of fundraising and anything like that too.
Okay, well, gotta be careful, because it's a town committee.
Right, I understand, but
Right.
the bodies that are on the rec department have no problem
Yeah,
helping
right.
out, just so you know.
Yeah, but I think maybe the Fire Department Association should be the nominal lead in this, because it is a private organization with its own checking account, and the ambulance is part of that now. But everybody else can get involved as individuals.
He's got to keep it away from his account.
Yeah, just read the 6
Everything has to
pages
be
from
separate.
it.
Read it out. Read it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
I'll send it to you.
Before you
Yeah.
say
Okay.
anything else.
Okay.
Herb, can you send it to me too?
Yeah, well,
Yeah. Sounds like a blueprint for getting this done.
yeah, yeah, it is.
And then the rest is
All right.
philanthropy.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
We'll get out of your hair.
Okay.
Thank you.
The DRA
They have to.
reference an RSA on that, and why they said no on public funds. Is there?
Yeah, let me,
Yeah, it's not public funds for private.
Well,
For
I just
private
wondered what
use.
the RSA is, that's all.
31, well, they said it's Constitution, but it was 31:4, I believe. And then she said that, then you go back to the Constitution and the standing, that's where the
Everybody reads
no
that.
public propaganda.
Mike,
39
Mike,
case law study.
That's where I read it. Seriously.
Okay, here's what they said, Mike. Article 22 is being disallowed as you cannot appropriate public funds for a private purpose. RSA 31:4 states towns may at any legal meeting grant and vote such sums of money as they judge necessary for any purpose for which a municipality may act if such appropriation is not prohibited by the laws or by the Constitution of the state. So they're not telling us which, where the laws are.
They're not telling you what's prohibited.
Yeah,
but
it's
there
kind of
is something.
circular here, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I asked that question and
Yeah.
she said it's in the Constitution, so.
Well, you know, I've read that somewhere too, and I went through the state constitution line by line. And even with this, I can't find it, but they tell me it's in there.
I might have to look a little closer. Wait, you said you saw it?
Yeah, I'll dig through. I have a giant stack of stuff. Let me dig through if I can find it, I'll stick that in the.
Okay, thanks.
I'll scan it. I'll send that along too.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are the trustees of the trust funds out there by any chance?
They are.
Okay.
Hello, okay.
Hello.
We're sitting in the library and not here,
All right, thank you.
Hello,
Hello.
can you speak?
Sorry.
Am I on?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm Norm Dion, Chair of the Trustee Trust Fund, and Michael Walsh, and Aaron Papp could not be here. And we also have a manager and investor from the town, Ed Oaks, okay? And with the with the issuing of the letter from the state, I just thought it'd be a good time now to talk and see what you see for the future and maybe what we do. For instance, I think we understand the letter pretty well, and I thank you for responding very quickly on moving the money from town bank accounts into a trust with that name and with that name as not agents, but what are we? Managers and investors. Or investors, Okay. Yeah, and so, and that's all we think pretty clear. Now, we're gonna start now, in our meetings coming along through the next year, trying to plan what we should do with that money. That's not clear.
By doing it, you mean how, excuse me, you mean how to invest it?
Well,
Or-
we know how to invest it, but we want to do what is in the will of the people.
Okay.
Yeah, we want to know, just out of curiosity more than anything, do you have plans, as it suggests in the letter, to try to get some of that money through a special town meeting or warrants at the end of the year? Other questions like, I hope you agree that article is not sufficient the way it is. It really needs to be rewritten to address what the people really want to do with that money. And do you plan on going ahead and trying to do it? Because we are. And at some point, we should come back together and say, this is what
You're
we
talking about a purpose for the fund, you mean?
yeah, and purpose and method by which it is dispersed
Okay.
and to whom. Because we don't
Okay.
spend money, we
Understood.
don't. And
And just so everybody else here knows,
Yeah.
I've worked with the board before because you manage the library's trust
yes,
funds. Yeah.
and I personally would like something similar to that, although it's a little different because the library is a single purpose thing.
Right.
And this would be broader, and I'm only speaking for myself now, because we haven't met and discussed this. But I personally don't think it should be automatically for this kind of truck, or automatically for a cruiser, or whatever. And from time to time it could be, but it shouldn't be automatic. We should be open where people could put their ideas in, we'd like to do this with it or that with it, and we'd have an opportunity where they could have a hearing and have public input, and that would be truly a town use for the money. If sometimes, if there was a real necessity in a police cruiser or something like that, well, by all means, that's fine, as long as this is the sense that this is what we want to do. So, babbling all of that on and on, we wondered what you're thinking down the road, because this is what we are wondering and worrying about.
Okay.
If I could put my 2 cents in.
Sure.
Okay.
And here, our hands are tied. At the town meeting, you brought forth a motion which is approved that we should be agents for expending this fund, and the DRA says no, we can't be. So this fund is trapped in limbo.
Okay.
And what Norman has decided is that this should at least temporarily go into a CD, the $540-something,000, so that it's at least conserved, it's protected, it's insured, and it's returning some amount of interest, no matter how small. But again, we're not expenders. We don't want to be agents to expend. We want to invest it. We want it to earn returns so that it earns money for the town and it hopefully reduces the tax burden on the people. And we don't know how to get there.
Okay.
There's 2 routes. One is a special town meeting, and the other is going to court. How does it happen?
I'm sorry, what was that last part about going to court?
Last one's going to court. If you want to get past all the democratic procedures, we could go to a court and have a judge decide, all right, this is what that money is for, this is who gets to invest it, and this is what it gets to be invested for. And nobody has to have a big democratic process about it, but you might not get the result you want.
I don't see I don't see why we would want to do that. It doesn't make any sense.
I don't want to do that either, but that's the other alternative.
Okay. Let's rule that one out.
Yeah, I don't want to go to court.
First, let me say this. The letter from DRA said that it was Article 35, RSA 35, said that you couldn't be agents to expend. So I went through and I read RSA 35 cover to cover, and I can't find that in there. And we've asked Jamie to clarify that for us and to tell us where in 35, specifically where, does it say that? And she has not gotten an answer for us yet. She said she'll look for it and she'll get back to us.
Can I just add, it may have been some kind of a court ruling.
That's what we're thinking. It may be an interpretation. And if it's just a DRA interpretation of what 35 means, we're stuck with it. But we're stuck with it if that's it. All right.
And we like not being expended.
Okay. You should have said something at town meeting.
It's hard to think clearly there.
Okay, all right. Well, as we understand it, right, assuming that it's going to stand as it is, there's, from what they're telling us, the selectmen should be the agents to expend. But again, RSA 35 doesn't say that either. It says we can be.
Or should be or could be,
Yeah. Saying that we can be the agents to expend tells me we don't have to be the agents to expend, and that somebody else could be. We could even have a separate committee, an advisory committee to do that. Or the trustee. You say you don't want to be, so if you don't want to be the agents to expend, we won't press this with Jamie to tell us where it is that it says it can't be.
Our wish is that this money just be allowed to be invested.
That's what I would like to see too. That was our original plan.
So, I'm sorry to interrupt, but, because I did talk to the DRA, and she said as custodians of this fund, you guys have the right to invest in more than just a CD at a minimal interest rate.
I'd like to hear that.
Okay, so
I
don't even know
that was one of my questions coming up.
Because
I know you guys are getting a fantastic return. I even said at a recent meeting, I wish I could invest my money with you.
Just talk to it up.
Because that is the will of the town, is to invest this money. And what Jamie was getting at was, she was under the assumption that she said, well, what if you need to access this money between now and next town meeting? And what she didn't realize is we don't want to access this money between now and
I have an answer for that anyway. I got an answer for that. If something happened and we needed, let's say something happened and we needed $50,000 in a hurry, and somebody says, whoa, let's take it out of the bequest. Well, there's another way to do it. And that is to hold a special meeting of the budget committee and take it out of surplus. And we did that to repair the roof on this a couple of years ago.
All right.
Right, but specifically to this fund, she was under the impression that, wow, you've made a mistake here, you've named somebody as agents to expend that isn't legally agents to expend. You want somebody to be able to access this money throughout the year, which that was never our intention.
Yeah.
Right. And,
What
and
if
in
we
lieu
never got
of
the
a-
request?
And in lieu of naming any agents to expend, if there aren't any named, it reverts back to the legislative body.
Right,
So
come next year.
that's
Right.
the legislative body can expend. So town meeting, but as custodians of the money, you can invest the money, and that was pretty clear that
Yeah, I
you
was
can invest the
wondering
money.
why you wanted to put it in a CD as opposed to normal investing.
Well, we didn't
Yeah.
want to be looked at as jumping the gun and hurrying and in making the process go the way we wanted.
Okay.
We wanted, everybody had a fair shot at.
Tell
we
them
didn't-
to
we
invest
didn't
it,
know-
Alan.
Okay. Well, earlier, Norm, you said
Invest
that you did not want to, you didn't want to earmark this for anything specific. And I agree with you. You know, when Betty Giorgiani left this money to us,
Yeah,
there were absolutely no strings attached to it. She's for the town.
That's right,
That's all it said.
that's right.
And so I don't think that this trust fund should be earmarked for something like the library or the cemeteries for a specific purpose. This should just be for the benefit of the town with nothing else
and one of
on
my
it.
reasons is that I think at the town meeting, there has to be a new article which defines the fund the way they want.
Okay.
Okay? And I thought I was jumping the gun if I went and invested it whole hog, which we would like to do.
Do it.
Because at the end of the year, that's not what we wanted to do, and so we're there, we have to undo all of this funding and stuff. That was my
Yeah.
reason. And
I don't think you're going to get a lot of resistance from the townspeople
okay, and
if you invest that money.
The CD
no, we haven't.
yet?
No, it's in.
We haven't done, it's not a done deal yet.
Well, you don't have the money yet, do you?
No, we don't.
Because you still have to get
No,
the
no,
documents.
We have
That the
a
paper's
form.
filled
Yeah.
out for the CD.
We have a form, needs one more signature on it.
Okay.
So, no, we would, in our investor would be really pleased. And
Yeah.
so what you're making conservatively, instead of 1.09%, you're making what, 8?
7 or 8.
Around
Where do I write my check?
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
And which is a modest return. I
Yeah.
mean, that's not overwhelming, but it's.
Right, but it's certainly better than the average investor is getting or that anybody with a bank account is getting.
And that way, what we usually do, and what we do with the cemetery, which has so much money, they don't even need it anyway.
It's
But
a
with-
fund to
with-
die for.
But with the library, we return 4% of the whole portfolio. And so it ends up with a fraction of going back, distributed again, and the rest of it goes into principal, so it grows.
Yeah.
So it doesn't grow leaps and bounds,
The
but it
cow
grows.
gets bigger,
Yeah.
and there's more
And
milk
it
from the bigger
stays-
cow.
And it stays reasonably close, like to the,
Yeah, and the amount that the library gets every year runs
well, it
7,000,
is a
8,000.
good system, because in the
Yeah.
old days, before my time, no, actually, when I first started, they used to return all of the interest.
Mhm.
Well, if you had a bad idea, man, you got all kinds of money. But if you had a stock drop, you get zero. And that was tough to take in the library, they get zero. And now that doesn't happen anymore. You get a percentage of the
Right.
portfolio, and it's a borrowing from year to year.
Yeah.
And the thing keeps growing. And it's disappointing, of course, when it drops a little bit, but the next year it goes up some. And it works pretty good. So, in the letter, now I'm smiling, in the letter from the state, it says, this is for the trustee of trust funds to invest. That was gonna be one of my questions.
Yeah.
Does it matter at this point in time, because how we invest it? Can we turn our man loose?
I would. I think,
Yeah.
you know, as the trustees of the
Make the
trust
town
fund,
money.
that's your call.
Okay.
Make the town
Well,
money.
this is a good point. We do, I mean, not in great amounts, but we do make, the cemetery has so much
Norm,
money.
if we just wanted a CD, Janet could do that.
Yes, I know. But I didn't want to be,
Yeah.
like I'm wheeling, dealing and.
Nope, do it.
No,
Well, I think
absolutely.
everybody's- I
Okay,
think
do it.
everybody's
And
in
so,
favor of being
and
invested.
this is with the understanding that at the end of the year, with everybody, townspeople, selectmen, us, we will come up with with an article that satisfies what we wanna do, satisfies everybody what we wanna do with this.
Should we not even touch that for a couple of years? Should we
Well,
just make it until?
That's what that article would address.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
How you wanna be handling interest earned year over year, if you wanna put
Exactly.
it all, roll it all back into the fund.
Yeah.
Because
For a
it's not
number of
library,
years.
it's not cemetery.
Yeah.
So it needs to have some definition as to how it will be applied.
Yep.
And maybe that comes up year after year on town meeting.
Well, even before that, maybe what we need to do is, before the deadline for submitting warrant articles
Yeah.
each year, have a public hearing
We gotta,
on the fund,
Yeah.
just to decide what do we want to do with what we're going to get this year.
because right now, at the end of the year, who would we turn this money over to?
Just general fund, we don't want to do
Well,
that.
yeah,
We want to have something.
that's not good either.
My impression from this,
We
Norm,
want-
my
we
impression
want
from this is that we want to have something each year, or maybe every 3 years even, however we decide to do it,
It
where we
can
can
be-
point and say, we got that from Betty Georgiani.
Yes.
Yes, and from time to time, it'd be something different or unique.
Yes.
Or
Yeah.
that we don't even know.
Go after it
what
specifically,
exists.
for a specific purpose,
Yeah.
and then her name is attached to it.
Yeah.
Because if we put it in the general fund, she's forgotten. I don't want to do that.
Exactly.
And if there's an organized, sort of panel formed,
Yeah.
I think that would be really, really good.
So the way it stands right now, just for my edification,
Yeah.
interest earned on that money this year will basically be, part of our general fund. That'll be monies that the town has earned that has not been decided upon because our article isn't clear enough, correct?
Yeah, I don't know.
No,
I
no,
don't
I
think
don't-
general fund.
No, I think.
No, it'll roll
No,
back.
I mean like
No, the money that we are putting into this, the
Mhm.
544, 290, no, that interest will accrue on that.
That'll
Okay.
stay,
Right
that'll
now-
stay in the
right
fund.
now, it's just gonna
Yeah.
be a boiling pot
Yeah.
until we decide through town meeting or otherwise where it goes.
Yep.
So the
Okay.
warrant
So
article
we'll
that you
just
want to
follow
do
the principle.
next town meeting
Yeah.
simply clarifies it.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. And also, yeah, and also how, and so what happens with the cemetery and with the library, we receive, it's a little form, we receive this form, and I tell the librarian ahead of time, that it looks like this is the interest you have. And so the trustees request that, so it's all, there's a paper trail. They request that, and we tell our investor, and he has the check written. The cemetery's a little different, because they have damn much money, they don't even need it, you know. And so
And we
they,
don't have to, we don't have to spend it
so they
elsewhere.
ask for a certain amount, which is way out of the ballpark from what they make. And so we just pay, and every year it's roughly the same, 20,000 or something like that.
So I have one question before we wrap up, and that is that, as far as the expenditures that were made from the Georgiani Fund, was town council ever, sought advice from town council on how to spend that money?
No.
Okay, just wondering, okay.
We had an interpretation from the Attorney General's office. As soon as we knew we were getting this, first Alissa spoke with Terry Knowles. I don't know if you know Terry.
I do.
Okay. And then I called her the next day to go over some of the things that Alissa had discussed with her. And based on what she told us, our plan, our original plan, and I think I told you that, Norm, when I ran into you over at Thai Bamboo Restaurant, our plan all at the beginning was to put that entire amount into a trust fund and let it sit there for at least a couple of years. And then the tax bills hit. And people started complaining about, my property taxes went up 1,000% or whatever. And that was when some town department heads came to us and said, we think we know a way to do something about the taxes. Warrant articles that would be going in, if we pay for that out of this fund this year, this fiscal year, instead of putting it on a warrant article next year, it would give us a savings a year earlier. That was the only reason we did that.
Okay, not,
And
no.
whether it was a good, obviously it was not a good idea. You don't think it was a good idea, Herb?
It was an awful idea. It was terrible. Horrendous.
Okay.
I wish we could never
All right.
have this.
Let's put it this
No,
way.
I don't
Let's
want
put
to
it this
discuss
way.
this ever again.
No, and I'll tell you something, and part of it, I'm gonna credit Curtis for a lot of this.
Why was it a
Because-
bad idea?
Because there's $2 million not available for
Now,
investment.
Right. Well, here's what happened though. Last year,
Interest on them notes that they paid off.
right, last year,
I don't know.
excuse me, everybody,
No.
last year, we were meeting at 5 o'clock, and a couple of years ago, we were meeting at 4 o'clock. And look at how many people we got sitting in this room right now. We never had this. A typical select board meeting last year was 4 people, 3 selectmen and Alissa.
Yeah.
We never had, but we moved the meeting when Curtis came on board. We changed it to 6:30, and I think that is one of the reasons that we have a showing here. And I think some of the furor that you guys stirred up is partly responsible for people paying more attention to what we're doing. That's a good thing.
Go budget committee.
So we're getting a lot of feedback now,
Yeah,
and it's good. We weren't getting any feedback last year.
no, eliminate everything.
So when I assure you, when we decided, when we voted to, and after a lot of discussion, we voted to make those purchases, our intentions were good. I think we went overboard. I think if we had just gone with the purchases of equipment on the warrant articles and had not got into the donations, I think we would have been in a lot better shape.
And we did not budget rate though.
I'm sorry?
We did not budget rate.
At all, no.
Now,
Yeah.
just for sake, at the risk of being a worrywart, selectmen, at the end of the year, if this thing isn't resolved, you're gonna support the idea that this was invested, and it will pass on to another year.
Sure,
And
it's,
so somebody says, what the hell, there's no money, and it's all invested, and what the hell,
Well-
you guys.
absolutely, and it's in
Okay.
our minutes, and the meeting's being recorded, it'll be available online
Yeah,
tomorrow.
yeah, okay, no, that's fine. And you don't, and I don't, but do you see any other problem, let's say with the court saying something? I don't, because I think what we're going by is this letter from DRA.
Yeah,
And
they,
they say we're allowed to invest it.
yeah, well, even if you,
But at the end of the year, if we don't come to a real working agreement with the panel and all that stuff, you're still with us.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I don't
That's
see,
important.
where would the resistance come from?
No, it's important though. We're not. we
Yeah,
don't
I
want
can't
to-
imagine.
That's what we need to hear.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Thank you.
we're all on the same sheet of music
And
here.
I don't take surveys, but I got a feeling that the people would like this invested.
Okay,
The townspeople will have a say anytime that money
Oh,
needs
yeah.
to get
yeah. And as for not having agents to
Well, that's
expend,
another thing, too.
I don't see that as a problem
Yeah, but
either.
You guys, see, that's another,
Hey, that's safe. No
It's
agents to
safe.
spend.
I'm sure.
That's
You know,
safe.
first of all, I don't see any reason to hold any kind of a special town meeting to name agents to expend between now and next March.
No.
Now, we may change our minds by next March about whether we want them at all, but I don't see a need to have them at all. Do you?
No, I don't.
No, because
No.
any.
That way it goes to
expenditures
town
have to
meeting,
go before
and the
town meeting.
legislative body makes the decisions on this.
exactly.
yeah, and also, we're all good friends here. and-
You sure about that?
No, yeah.
Yeah, Mike and I are still speaking.
No, and I thought it was really very, very good, and it's very uplifting to have the input that you finally got, the townspeople coming in here and saying, hey, this is not what we wanted.
Yep.
And that is really a good civic action, it really is. And we're happy to see that.
Good.
Okay, so,
I'm done.
can we go off the deep end?
Yeah, we're good.
For lack of one signature.
Yeah, we got
Okay,
one
do
signature.
you have any other questions? I'm very
No,
pleased.
sir.
This is more than I thought for, I just,
Thank you, Curtis.
Thank you.
Thank you, Allan.
Michael?
yeah. Here,
Back
guys,
there.
this is more than I thought we were gonna come out with. Good job, guys.
Take care.
Thank you. Thank you. You bet.
Okay, that covers everybody that we had on our agenda for tonight. Alissa, a quick question. These 3 documents that we discussed earlier, would we say we needed to go non-public on that?
You said yes.
Okay.
If we were,
These are the ones, these are documents about whether or not we're going to tax deed a property. Which ones were these? The ones that we do want to take or do not?
those are the ones that are in question.
Okay, so we'd have to go non-public for that. Okay.
But before we do,
Oh, we're not ready there. I just want to know what to do with these before I continue on with what I got on the agenda.
okay, just wanna make sure.
Okay, I want to just review something else here that we've already discussed tonight. Mike, you weren't here when we talked about this Linda Farnham case. We got a letter from Cy Little. His advice to us was to not pursue it because he says she's living in subsidized housing and living on Social Security and basically has nothing. So even if you get a judgment, you're never going to collect anything. Barbara has tried to reach her, to talk to her and try and work out a payment plan. Has not been able to reach her, and she will not return calls. So I've asked Alissa, and this is, I've changed my mind. I really wasn't big on this, but over the last week I've thought about it. And the way I'm looking at it is, she got the money that she knew did not belong to her. She chose to keep it and would not return it to the insurance company when requested. We got stuck for it. I don't see the difference between that and theft. Somebody else may, but I'm at this point, there's a little bit of principle involved as well as the money. So I want to pursue it. And I've asked Alissa to contact the insurance company and find out, number one, do we have the right to stop paying her premiums? I don't know, I suspect we do not have that right. There may be a contractual thing here. But we may be able to adjust the amount that we pay and work out our own payment plan without her cooperation. And for example, we pay the insurance monthly. Let's say we decide to take $25 a month. If we can reduce what we pay by $25 a month, that will increase her copay by $25 a month, and we'll collect it that way.
But I don't think we're paying the premiums, are we? We shouldn't be.
I believe the pension pays it, that's where.
Yeah.
Oh, is it? I thought we sent a check in.
No,
I misunderstood that, I'm sorry.
it's on our bill every month, but the retirement pension pays
So
it directly. That's where it got.
so the bill that we get isn't really a bill. It's just an accounting
Who's
statement.
on there,
Okay,
how much.
all right, I misunderstood that.
But have we had her fill out, an application though?
We can't even get hold of her.
Well, send it to her.
Yeah, okay,
Certified mail or something.
all right. Let's do that then.
Do something like
Don't bother calling the insurance company. I thought we were paying something for that.
Well, it'd be interesting to see what other recourse we might have.
Yeah.
I don't know about the trust,
Well,
I don't know how it works, but
yeah,
what other recourse we might have as far as any benefits that are provided?
I'm not sure. Yeah, maybe you should call the insurance company, just discuss it with them and see what they say about our, but what Si says does make sense though. If she refuses to cooperate and she has nothing, it's one thing to get a judgment, something entirely else to collect it.
I just don't want us, I know we're not gonna get the money back, we all know that. So, or if we do, it's gonna dribble in here and we'll all be gone before it all comes back. The thing is, I just wanna make sure she's signing an application for her insurance through the town of Troy because she's receiving it through the town of Troy. And also, make sure this doesn't happen to us again.
Yeah.
That's my concern.
Well, how would you avoid it happening again?
Well, why did the insurance company wait from 2012? They had the bill back in 2012 that she didn't pay.
Right.
Why did they charge us back in 2016 for that?
Because the contract said they could.
I know that, but I would hope.
Why did they wait 4 years?
Yeah.
Because they were trying to collect from her?
Well, one more interesting thing, the contract is actually signed and dated 2015, which was after all that happened, so.
Yeah.
Which leads to another question is there another contract? Is there a contract prior to 2015? Because if we signed a contract in 2015 and they billed us, or we paid something from 2012, out of a contractual obligation, something's a little funny there too. So there's, a lot of more questions to be asked.
Do we have a copy of the contract?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got the one.
Yeah, it's dated 2015.
Okay. Would you get a copy for me to look at? Or if do you have it digital?
I think I do, because she emailed it to me, yes.
If it's digital, just email it to me.
Their mistake.
All right.
Put it on my,
I
have it too, so I'll put it on my email too. I might have to send two emails.
Yeah, and I may have to spend half a day on my, I think I told you that before, this is my email. No, I have a desktop, laptop,
Okay.
but I do a hotspot on this.
Yep.
So you can imagine what kind of speed I get.
Yeah.
So.
Alan,
Yeah.
what's the difference between paying this versus paying the legal fees?
I don't follow you on that, Mike.
Well, we're not paying the legal fees,
Because we're not allowed to.
but public funds, right?
The health trust we have a contract with, we
Well,
were liable.
we're
It's
stuck in
the
the
ambulance,
Yeah.
we weren't,
I know, but we're paying her, we paid her insurance, what she owed the insurance company.
We're on a contract with not the DRA, a contract with the insurance company, which
Well, maybe we ought to get a contract with the lawyer then.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions.
Yeah.
A lot of questions, because we did. We
All
paid,
right. Well,
we paid it.
Mike, I'm glad you came in late so that we discussed this again, because that cleared it up for me. I wouldn't have clarified that otherwise.
Excuse me, earlier you told me that the insurance company sent her a check.
That was my, I wasn't sure if they sent her a check or they paid something on her behalf. And then she may have gotten a refund from a provider.
But we didn't pay her insurance, we paid the insurance company back, is that what?
That's correct.
So we didn't pay her insurance, they sent her a check by mistake or something? Then they went
Yeah.
up to the town to pay the.
I don't know the whole thing.
She was supposed to pay it back, and she didn't.
Yeah, she got some kind of a reimbursement.
She was supposed to
Of
pay the
$4,000.
insurance company back.
Yes.
Yeah, and she knows it, but she refuses to do it because she has something against the insurance company. They did something that she didn't like, so she says, "Well, I'm not giving the money back." So they came after us because the contract says that if they can't recover it, we have to make it up.
Even though they sent it to her by mistake.
That's correct. So we have to cover their mistake and her refusal to be honest.
That contract?
Well, the contract was actually dated after this all happened, so I question the validity of it to begin with, because it was, the contract, at least the one we got, was 2015.
But was that just a renewal?
Even
If it's
then,
her-
I mean, that's what they sent you when you requested, hey, we need to see the documentation that supports this claim that there's a clause that we have to pay this, blah, blah, blah. And then it shows up and it's 2015.
Right, and they went in, actually went into the text of the document, which was weird, because it's a signed document. They went in and put it in bold, that section, put it in bold.
You would think they would
Yeah,
update that every year.
really weird stuff.
I would think.
What's that?
I think they would update that every year.
Yeah, the whole thing was weird.
Yeah.
The whole thing was weird.
Not to mention, didn't they levy her tax refund?
Return. That's why she said she wouldn't pay.
So if they levied it 1 year for money that she owed them, why couldn't they just levy it every year until it was resolved? Here again, I never would have sent that check.
Yeah, that was the real crux of it, is trying to get the money back is impossible.
It's impossible. Never sending it in the first place was
the right answer.
Yeah.
But anyway.
All right, that covers everything that we have here. Curtis, do you have anything?
What's underneath the new business? The agenda request? Right there on the front, number 1.
Oh, yeah, actually, we haven't gone down through all of this new business yet. Most of it we've covered. The agenda request form.
Yep, that's the, Herb brought it to my attention for Swansea. This is what they use, if you guys want some copies. Here. Anyway, just for, we can get a better idea what's going on for the agenda. I gave you a copy already.
Somewhere in here, I got it, yeah.
It was in that stack of paper that I gave you in the beginning.
Oh, that was a long time ago.
Oh, there you go. There's another one.
Thank you.
So anyway, just so we can have a better idea of what's going on
Yep.
during our meetings, and we can be better prepared for when we're having our meetings, and we
Yep.
know what we're talking about. Swansea actually uses this form. I did go through and change it for Monday evenings at 6:30, because their
Yep.
meetings are on Wednesday, and they request it, if you want to be put on the agenda on Friday at 5 p.m., I change it to be received by 7 p.m. on Thursday night. Then at that point, Alissa can send out an email, hey, these are all the people that are going to be on the agenda.
Can I put you on hold 1 second?
Yes.
And I'd like to suspend the meeting for about 3 minutes. Okay? Excuse me.
Oh. I was going to say, Allan, this is not non-public.
No, actually, this is not.
Yeah, this is non-public.
Well, have a nice evening.
You too.
See you, Mike. Joel, to answer your question from earlier, paying off the leases wasn't a bad idea.
No.
Everything else in that was a bad idea.
Yeah, the leases weren't terrible. Although we were paying less interest
Than what we would have earned.
But it's,
On the loans, on.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If
it's,
we
yeah,
invested,
if we were paying 7 or 8% on a vehicle loan, we got a shot for a better deal.
Yeah, if there's any part of it that was remotely a good idea, that was as close as you'd get.
The gentleman there that oversees the trust funds, he seems.
Norm?
Norm, yeah.
Yep.
He doesn't wanna be on the wrong side of anyone, does he?
No,
Wants to do it fair.
he wants
Yeah.
to be,
Do
yeah,
it
he
the
wants
right
to
way.
make sure, yeah. And I think part of it is when they invest, they don't want to invest it and get it all locked into longer term stuff and find out, oh wait, we need to get some back.
Yeah.
They wanna make sure they know what's up.
There's an art to it.
Oh, I'll be all for leaving it in there until we get the $821,500 back. And that, till that count, and then afterwards, then be able to expend the interest or a part
Yeah.
of the
I
interest.
think in most
8%.
investments, yeah, I know it's
Pretty
good. In most investments, they don't return all of the interest that's made. They keep adding the principal every year, even though they're using some of the interest. They continue to add the principal every year, so it constantly gets bigger. So
I was gonna say, hold on to it until it gets
Sure.
back up to that one mark.
Thank you for your patience.
So,
Okay, Curtis, you were saying.
So, Swansea is the one that uses this, and like I said, I made some adjustments so it'd be fitting
Yeah.
us. And just because several times now, I for one come in here and I have no idea who's on the agenda and I have no idea what to prepare for.
Right.
And I can't even look up anything tonight. I had paperwork because I knew that Norm was going to be in, and I knew the culvert was going to be in. So I had some documentation looked up
Right.
already so I could be ready for it. But I think having some documentation so they can put down the reason for it, if it's old business, new business, and once again, we're going to have documentation instead of just putting it on the one sheet. We're going to actually have a reason why they're going to be coming in.
Okay. I think this is something you mentioned, Ben.
Yep.
Or Herb, you
Yeah,
did.
well, we
Yeah, we-
started this conversation a little
Yeah.
while ago, yeah, but Herb was the one that sent this over to.
All right.
And it kind of pops up, we mentioned it, and then it kind of pops up, like,
Yeah.
even last
Every
week
week,
with the every week, but
Yeah.
last week with the culvert, that's just one small example,
Yeah.
where they come in and not really sure what anybody's, nobody knows, well, we gotta call Jim Dicey, and there's more to the story, and
Can you come back?
can you come back next week?
Right.
Yeah.
And, digging up RSAs and things like that on the fly
Right.
is,
And if we need to get somebody come in as well, because we may have questions, we can actually catch it ahead of time. 'Cause
Okay,
if,
good point.
Alissa
Yeah.
compiles some type of an email, send it to us three, so we'll know what we're gonna be talking about.
All right.
yeah, you'd see it, and if something came up where you realized, you know what, they came in on Thursday, they wanna be here on Monday, but we really need to have someone come in or whatever, you may bump it out a Monday to make sure that somebody can come in and do it all in one meeting, or get most of it in one
All right.
meeting.
All right.
Any homework we need to do.
Okay, a couple of questions. I noticed on here under contact information, it calls for a signature. Can somebody just phone this in and not sign it?
Well, they have to drop it off, because we're gonna want the information in here, and you put this on the website,
Yeah.
print it off the website, and then send it in, just drop it off. Drop it off with
Or
Marcy
fax it or
whatever.
email it or something?
Whatever, as long as we have it.
All right.
And so, I'd say
So
definitely.
let's say that, let's say last year Curtis Hopkins calls from Derry or wherever it is you work out there in
London
the
area.
seacoast area.
Yeah.
And you can't get here in time for 7 o'clock on a Thursday. So could you call here on Thursday afternoon and say, Alissa, help me out here. Could you fill out this form for me?
I would say, because if it's gonna be available on the internet, on our website, print it off, do whatever we need to do, and then email it back, as long as it's postmarked by.
But if you're if you're at work or you're on the road somewhere,
Well, then.
You should be able to get this in, if you've got an issue that's important enough that you have to,
Right.
then you should be able to pull it together, that's the right
They're
form.
not on the internet, and they don't.
We're gonna have these forms available in a little folder somewhere, so all you gotta do is come in, take it, and then you can use the professional.
all right.
Just thinking.
It's just, right now, just for the last couple of meetings, I for one, when Herb sent this to me, I am all for it because I don't like coming in here and not having answers. And
Okay.
you're gonna hear me be completely quiet because I don't have an answer, I don't have any idea
Okay,
or what's going
alright.
on, like the Granite Street issue. When that was first brought up, I didn't say a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But after I went down and I looked at the issue, I brought it up and I'm all for
Okay.
it, so.
All right. I'm not convinced, but you feel strongly about it, so I'll go along with it. So, Alissa?
Who's the town administrator?
Well, this can be changed and formatted to fit our agenda. Like I said, I got the PDF converter at my work, so if we need to adjust this as needed, I just did the dates for Monday evenings at 6:30, and I changed it. It did not say Swansea's, and the
All right.
received by Thursday at 7 p.m. We can also change that to Wednesday at whenever the office closes, so you have all day Thursday to work to get the email out.
Well, we could also, you're here till what, 7 o'clock on Thursday generally?
7:30.
7:30? We could make it 5 o'clock on Thursday.
Okay.
That would give you time to put it together, Thursday.
I think if you look at the select board's site for Swansea,
Yeah.
it has a link for this form, but it also has a bunch of information surrounding this form as far as, you know, if your appointment will be changed, you'll be notified. It has a kind of disclaimer that goes along with this, doesn't it?
Right, yeah. I did look it up earlier today and everything, like I said. Swansea's website is ridiculous amount of information on it. It's
Right.
actually pretty neat.
Right.
So. But like I said, it
Right.
just needs to get changed on,
Were you asking about town administrator because we don't have one?
Right.
Administrative assistant. We can make that correction.
yeah.
She's got 2 more jobs tonight. She's the ADA coordinator, and now she's...
Don't push her.
Between now and next week, I'll make up a few more.
Thank you.
We're not done with your job description anyway.
I suspect that ADA coordinator involves nothing, probably,
I hope so.
with a town this size. But that just means that if somebody at the state has a question, instead of trying to figure out who to hand it to, just handle it. And if you have a question, you just call us. Well, they just need a name on their roster. You know what this does? This justifies the position in Concord, that somebody there can keep track of all the ADA coordinators.
Okay.
Can't have it cheap without idiots. All right, the only thing I would like to do, Curtis, instead of making a decision on this tonight, since Barbara's not here, I'd like to table this and then discuss it next week so we have all 3 of us.
Okay.
Since I think this is a major change to the way we do business.
Okay. I'm for that. I'm actually that was gonna be another thing, a caveat, because when you were gone, we didn't make any decisions because you were gone. I just want to, expand the courtesy to all the.
Absolutely, yeah. It's not an emergency, but it's also not routine.
Right.
So yeah, let's table this till next week.
All right. Is there any other? Just administrative assistant and 5 p.m. on Thursday?
I'm sorry, what?
As of right now?
Say it
Any
again?
changes on this?
Do I have any?
Yeah.
Other than this?
You said
No.
5 o'clock p.m. on Thursday?
Oh, yeah, okay, so
And
we'll
then
change that to 5 and just change the title down here,
Administrative.
administrative assistant.
All right, because I can change it. Do you have the PDF converter on your computer or no? Okay, so if you want to change it, you can. If not, I will.
All right. So the agenda request letter from Dick at DES, we got
I did.
that.
Oh, no, I didn't. I got it from her, but it's on the Swansea's website. So.
Okay, actually, we have covered everything in new business because it was in the folder. So we have covered everything on our agenda for tonight. Herb, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Just spectating more tonight.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Adam? Anything? Okay. Joel, anything more?
No, sir.
Norm? Ben?
I'm good, thank you.
Alissa, you got anything for us? Move to adjourn.
Can you do this?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we have to go into a non-public to discuss that. So,
Have a good night.
Good night. Let me find the citation for that.
Good night.
We had to put up flags.
Want the drafts? I mean, don't get me wrong, Alissa. I hate giving you more work that you don't need, but for the flow purposes.
Okay, here we go. I
There's
move
one more
that,
deadline I gotta have to fit into where I'm.
I move that we go into non-public session under the provisions of 91A:3, Roman numeral 2, small c. Matters which, if discussed in public, would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of the public body itself.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. We are in non-public session at 8:31 PM. Okay, I move that we come out of non-public session.
Are you sealing the?
I'll second it.
We'll get there. All in favor of coming out of non-public session, say aye.
Aye.
We are out of non-public session at 8:59 PM. I move that the non-public minutes be sealed.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. Non-public minutes are sealed. I move to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. Meeting is adjourned at 9 o'clock.